evening, baseball fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tonight, we have a show chock full of baseball. Of course, we've got our usual live score update. We're going to see what's going on around the league right now. Not pretty nice for several teams. Several teams are not looking so good. We're going to take a look at who is maybe just waiting for these games to wrap up so that they can move on. We've got some hot topics, of course, to discuss. Eugenio Suarez setting an interesting record that has not happened since, I believe, 1986 with a 4-home run game in a loss for Arizona. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Dodgers still biting a little bit of the injury bug. First, Blake Snell, now Glasnow, gets added to the injury list. We're going to talk about the impact for the Dodgers there. And the Mets, first team to 20 wins. I did not have that on my bingo card for the 2025 baseball season, but we're going to talk about that and talk about the significance of that for the team moving forward. We're, of course, going to take a look back at the week that was, talk about who had a great week, maybe who didn't have a great week, what players are hot, what players are pretty cool. And then, of course, we have to look ahead to our series for this upcoming weekend. There's always some great ones, a lot of competitive baseball, a lot of competitive teams. So there's definitely going to be some good ones. And then check in on the minor leagues with some great play happening there early on. We, of course, must check in with our baseball and our softball teams. Softball conference championships start next week, so a pretty high-pressure, significant time in the season for them. And baseball's coming down the wire as well. We're going to take a look at some teams playing well. And then, of course, wrap it up with our Around the Diamond segment, where Ricky and I are just going to talk about whatever's eating at us right now here tonight. We've got all of that and more coming up on the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. We're going to hear a quick word about our sponsors and be right back.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Jerky that's on a whole nother planet. Go to planetjerky.net to get yours today. Also, Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but promotes and donates to mental health research. So head on over to their site, use code IESR to get 15% off of your order today. Seal the Deal wax stamps, custom wax stamps, perfect for your special occasion. Check them out on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps. And of course, if you have not done so already, please follow us at the hashtags below on X. You can follow the show at BP Bulletin_IESR. You can follow yours truly at Let's Wine _IESR. You can follow Ricky at Rickinator555. And Alden, who is not here tonight with us, but you can follow him at TheAztrl. So we've got all of that going, but first we have a shout out to do before we really get going into. It's not baseball related, but it is IE Sports Radio related, in that we had our NFL mock draft challenge this past week, and the winner of the challenge is actually present with us in this stream tonight, and that would be Ricky, pointing that way. There we go. So, Ricky, congratulations on your victory in the mock draft challenge.
Thank you, sir. I mean, I know we won't be doing that for baseball because I don't know if anybody really knows who goes in the baseball draft in a couple months, but a lot of fun. If you missed it, check out our, 4 hours of draft recap, if that's what you're into. Is roughly almost 4 hours, but if
3 hours and 45 minutes. Yeah, who's counting though, right?
If you have a favorite football team, just scroll and find when we're liking or disliking or we'll seeing your picks. But it was a lot of fun, and props to Mike for running a great challenge, at least the 2 years that I've been on here.
Yep, absolutely. And well done, sir. Well done indeed. But, enough football talk. This is a baseball show. Let's get to some baseball. Before we dive in, we've got some comments. Taryn Rodriguez saying, good evening, Ricky, Mike, and Alden. Alden here in spirit. Have an amazing show. Also got Ralph Calise. Good evening to you as well, sir. This is an interesting question. Maybe we won't necessarily jump into this one right away here. Maybe we'll do that in a little bit. We'll file this thought away. We'll talk. Might be a good topic of conversation. And then, yes, Taryn confirming 3 hours and 41-ish minutes. And it felt like every bit of that, I can say, doing that show. But let's get to it. It is Tuesday night, of course, so we've got a bunch of live baseball happening now. So, Ricky, take it away. What's going on live right now in the world of baseball?
Well, we don't have any finals yet, which I guess is a good thing, even though 9 o'clock. Sometimes we get a 6:30 game. The Cardinals and Reds were postponed tonight, so we have one less game. Twins and Guardians were supposed to start at 6. Apparently, they're warming up, so it's about almost a 3-hour rain delay. So have fun if you're in Cleveland tonight, because that should be interesting. Games in progress. Let's start in Tampa. Royals right now lead the Rays 2-1 in the bottom of the 8th. Bobby Witt, by the way, became the 8th Royal in history to have a 20-game hitting streak. So he is flying under. I feel like Bobby Witt's flying under the radar this year. It's very weird, but he's playing really well. So props to him, keeping that streak going. Red Sox are beating the Blue Jays 8-2 in the 8th. The story is not in this exactly who's doing well for the Red Sox, even though Jarren Duran's playing well and Devers hit a home run. Dalton Varsho had an insane catch where he basically fell down at the track and then made a behind-the-back grab. If you haven't seen it, go to YouTube or the baseball Twitter account. I think I retweeted it as well from the Bullpen Bulletin account. It is insane. We've had 2 catch of the year catches in one night from 2 different games. We'll get into it in a minute. But the Red Sox doing their thing against the Blue Jays right now. Cubs up 8-0 on the Pirates. That game is in the top of the 8th. P. Crow Armstrong homered in this game, his 6th of the year. Carson Kelly, his 7th. Seiya Suzuki, his 7th. Dansby Swanson, his 5th. Shota Imanaga, 5 scoreless innings. Cubs will go to 18-12 with a win tonight. Brewers lead the White Sox 3-2. That game is in the 6th. White Sox went back-to-back in the first inning, but Milwaukee just took the lead there out in the Windy City. And now let's get into the games that Mike cares but doesn't really care about. We'll start in Philadelphia. Phillies are up 5-2 in the 9th against the Nationals. Great game solid game, I think, by Mackenzie Gore. 6 innings, 3 runs, 5 hits, struck out 6. The only difference, 2 home runs, including 1 from Kyle Schwarber. He hit his 8th in the 1st. Rojas, a home run in the 3rd. Zach Wheeler, 6 2/3, 2 runs, 5 hits. He struck out 7. And, of course, out in Camden, the Yankees are leading the Orioles 14-2. Yankees went back-to-back-to-back with Grisham, Judge, and Rice. The second time this year they've gone back-to-back-to-back in the first inning, which is amazing. Cody Bellinger then homers, so 4 home runs in the first inning. Yankees did that also the second game of the season. Carlos Rodon had a perfect game through 5. That did not last long, but I think at that point, just want to get him out of the game. So those 2 teams, they'll split the first 2 games there. And meanwhile, in the other series that affects myself and Alden's squad, the Mets lead the Diamondbacks 8-1 in the 8th inning out at Citi Field. Mets are about to go 13-1 at Citi Field this year. David Peterson, 5 strong innings, but homers from Lindor, Marte, and Alonso. So the Mets about to go to 21-9 over the first 30 games. Tigers lead the Astros 1-0. Kerry Carpenter led off that game with a home run. That's in the 5th. Rangers with a 3-0 lead on the A's. That game is in the bottom of the 4th. And the top of the 4th in Colorado, the Braves lead the Rockies 2-1 on a 2-run double by Michael Harris. Other games that are set to go in progress, Angels and Mariners about to get underway out in Seattle. The Giants and Padres about to get underway in San Diego. That's going to be a really fun series. Nick Pivetta gets the ball for San Diego against Logan Webb. So that's a really good pitching matchup here. Staying up late in the East Coast, drinking some coffee. Yes, I do have a Giants hat. I can explain this one. This is the City Connect. There is purple in it for NYU, so I felt the need at the MLB store to get a City Connect hat, and I like this one. So we're debuting different bases. If you have a favorite team and you just want to send me stuff to wear on the show, I will gladly do that. I'm okay with it. If you
Same. I'll throw that offer out there as well.
And
I have
Marlon,
no shame. Hey, one of my favorite teams is the third worst team in baseball right now. So I mean, what do I have to lose at this point?
and as Ralph said in the chat, Tyrone Taylor also had a crazy diving catch in that game. So that was the other crazy play of the day. Marlins and Dodgers at 10 o'clock tonight. Sandy Alcantara from Miami. We still don't know who's pitching for the Dodgers. I don't. Tony Gonson's supposed to get activated tomorrow. That might be a bullpen game. Who knows? But that is your Tuesday around the majors, and we'll update a little bit more probably about at the end of the night. We'll give one more update on what's going on.
Awesome. That's great stuff. Great stuff. Yeah. Some close games, but certainly several blowouts or several not very close games happening tonight across the league. So let's get into our hot topics then. Of course, the first one would be a lot more animated if Alden was here tonight, but unfortunately he is not. So maybe we won't necessarily try to match his animation, but Eugenio Suarez of the Arizona Diamondbacks made an interesting little bit of history, or like one of those first time since statistics, when he hit 4 home runs for Arizona in a loss. Ricky, this was on Sunday, correct? Saturday. Yep. So Eugenio Suarez hit 4 home runs in a loss, which is the first time that has happened to a player since, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Ricky, we saw this stat in 1986.
Correct. Bob Horner of the 1986 Braves hit 4 homers in an 11-8 loss to the Expos.
Yep, and then ironically enough, as Alden noted, it was the Braves who the Diamondbacks lost to in that game. So, Ricky, what do you think of this odd little bit of history that we just saw here as we head to the end of April in the season?
Well, first off, let's give credit to Eugenio Suarez. There's only been 3 hitters that have had 4 home runs in a game in April: Willie Mays, Mike Schmidt, and Eugenio Suarez. So that's great company to be in. Bob Nightingale had that tweet Saturday night. And Suarez is off to a good start, at least in the power department. He's got 10 home runs this year. He's batting 200, though. And I don't know if that speaks to at this day and age in the sport. He has got in total this season 20 hits, and 10 of them have left the yard. Now, that's not uncommon. We've seen it before. We've seen crazy, like, names that come to mind for us would be like Mark Reynolds, Adam Dunn, like guys that you only know home run or strikeout, essentially. And Suarez is that guy, but he's kind of reinvented himself in Arizona. He's a guy who was really good with Cincinnati for a little bit, had some moments with Seattle, but I think it's kind of become a mainstay of the Diamondbacks. So let's give him some credit first. And his 4th home run, to his credit, did tie the game in the 9th, which I wonder at that point, if I'm Raisel Iglesias, I know it's a 1-run game. Why the heck am I pitching to a guy who's got 3 home runs in the day? I have no clue. Right. That might be where I go the conventional, unconventional route and walk them. I think the problem right now for Arizona would be their bullpen. Justin Martinez was one who gave the unearned run in the 10th, but you're looking around that team and they could definitely use a little. They've got some bullpen concerns. Their starters, Zach Gallen and Corbin Burns, have 1 win between them, and we're already going into May. That's a little bit of a concern, especially in a crowded West. But let's give the Braves some credit too. You talk about a team that got off to a bad start. Strider had a step back in his rehab. It sounds like Acuna is going to start his rehab assignment soon, which is very good in Atlanta. With a win tonight, if they get it, I believe would get to 500. Let me just double check if that is the case.
It would be 1 game short.
No, 1 game short, but still where they were at the beginning of the year to be a game short and kind of slowly crawling back up, that if the Mets weren't off on this insane run that they're on, they'd be a little bit closer. So the Braves, I think, are starting to play well and play well away from home, which is something that we talked about a couple weeks ago they've been struggling with. So Atlanta, I think it's more about the Braves, what they did in Arizona compared with the Diamondbacks are, but it's just kind of weird to see a game like that. As a fan, it's one of those things you get. It's 1 of 162, but it still stings at the same time.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. Anytime you have somebody who puts up that, I mean, most people are happy when their teams as a collective hit 4 home runs in a game. For one single player to do it, you almost expect to come away with the victory. But baseball's a weird sport. It doesn't always work out in your favor that way. But again, to your point, well done by Suarez to hit the 4 home runs. I mean, that is a phenomenal achievement for him to be able to do that in a game. Sounds like it would be nice if he would hit the ball a couple more times. Maybe, not a home run, maybe a single or a double every now and then would be nice to pad up that batting average. On to some not great news for the Dodgers. Tyler Glasnow has joined Blake Snell on the injured list. This was just announced yesterday. I believe Glasnow was put on the list with a right shoulder inflammation, the 15-day injured list. And like I said, he joins Blake Snell, who has left shoulder inflammation. So, they're combining to, get both shoulders taken care of there. But Ricky, what does this mean for the Dodgers?
I don't think it hurts them too much. They do have some depth coming back. Like Gonsolin's going to pitch tomorrow, which is a good thing for them. Clayton Kershaw was supposed to pitch on a rehab assignment tonight in AAA Oklahoma City. He's not, but it's not for a setback. They had rain in the area, so they pushed that back. He might be around mid-May, so a couple weeks away from having him. There is kind of the specter of eventually Ohtani pitching to some degree. They might have to rely on him a little bit more now than they thought. I'm not going to say this injury hurts the Dodgers because we saw last year they can win a World Series with half their rotation on the IL. It's not the end of the world. And again, they've built up a pretty nice cushion so far. A win tonight would give them 20 wins in their first 30 games. You would take that in a heartbeat. I think this says sadly more about Glasnow. He's one of those pitchers that when he's healthy, he's really good, but he's never healthy. And you kind of just wish you would see him more. I think it would have been great if he won something with the Rays, especially when he was at his peak point. Everyone remembers the Rays basically stealing him from the Pirates. But unfortunately, this is a pitcher that can't stay on the field. At least Snell has to a degree. But when you get guys with history of injuries, and Glasnow is one of them, it's really tough to get them through the year without an IL stint.
Yeah, no, and looking at the numbers, Glasnow, in his time as a starter last year was actually the most innings he's ever pitched in a season with 134. That is not what you would expect, especially from a pitcher of his caliber, who's, like you said, when he is healthy, he is on, but he just can never stay healthy and can't ever give you more than 20 games. And this all is just pretty consistent with that. It stinks, but like you said, the Dodgers have a nice cushion, and they haven't even been put in the situation where they've had to utilize Ohtani as a pitcher. Maybe, as you noted, that will come to be a necessity here soon if any more injuries pile up. But I mean, you look at the rest of the rotation. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has been fantastic to start the year. He's having a great season. Dustin May has given them 5 decent starts overall, from the looks of it. Roki Sasaki, I know he's had his hiccups here and there, but he's given you at least some decent starts here as well. They just need to find the missing piece, find a couple more pieces to stick in that rotation to keep it well. But again, the results speak for themselves, and currently the Dodgers are 19-10. So, just kind of keep what you're doing, and in terms of starting pitching, tread water until some of these guys can get healthy and do it and replenish the rotation for you. So another team that is doing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it could be an audition for Alcantara tonight. I mean, hey, if he goes out there, pitches well, and maybe the Dodgers, we all know, have seen the prospect capital, they're going to go out there and make a starting pitching deal if they need to anyway.
That is entirely true. By the way, I hate to do this mid-show, but just a little update. Nathan Lowe just hit a 3-run home run in the Phillies-Nationals game to give the Nats a 1-run lead entering the bottom of the 9th. So some excitement here for a Tuesday in the MLB. Let's see if Kyle Finnegan can finish it off for us. Another team that is doing surprisingly well, maybe not surprisingly well, but I think maybe even better than we would have expected, is the New York Mets, first team in baseball to 20 wins, despite the Nationals' best effort this past weekend, which was a pretty darn good effort, I gotta say. The Mets did get to 20 wins, first team in baseball to do so. Ricky, obviously you're our New York guy. What does this mean for the Mets, and do you think they've got what it takes to keep this going.
Well, they did take a somewhat a significant hit today with their bullpen. AJ Minter, who they got as kind of the setup guy to Edwin Diaz, has a significant injury that Carlos Mendoza said if he has to have surgery would end his season. So that is a big blow to the Met bullpen. That's actually done surprisingly pretty well, considering Buto's been really good. Ryan Stanek had some rough moments in DC, but he's done okay. And Edwin Diaz, like we've said, has been probably the worst reliever so far. He was unavailable for a game or two in DC with the, I think that leg issue that he had in the Philly series last week. But from a positive standpoint, you think about this lineup yesterday, winning 19-5 the way they did, getting Jeff McNeil back and he homers, getting Francisco Alvarez back, and he was the big difference in a 2-0 win over the weekend. When they have all their guys in the lineup, they're a different offense. Like you look at Juan Soto, who hasn't really done a lot in the home run department, but he's been really good from the on-base department. You wonder when he's going to get going, what's in the home runs, when that's going to happen. Lindor's been off to a great start, making an early case for MVP, especially when you consider every other year he stinks in April and he goes out there and then lights the world on fire. Now he's been great in April. So that definitely changes things. Their starting rotation, I think, has been the biggest surprise. They have played now 30 games. Their starters have never allowed more than 4 runs in any start. Now, they don't go a lot of innings, some of them, like a Griffin Canning, but you think about what Senga's been good, Peterson's been good, Clay Holmes has been good, but Tyler McGill, I think, has been the biggest difference. He's at 19 strikeouts in his last 2 starts. He's getting into the 6th inning now more frequently, which I think is what the Mets have needed. I think if he's your number 4, that's a really good number 4 to have. They don't really have, outside of Minter, significant injuries. Jose Siri's out, but Tyrone Taylor's there, so he can always plug in. You have Marte still, so they have a lot of outfield depth. Nimmo's starting to get going. This is a really well-rounded lineup, and I think when you look at the NL, they kind of have the recipe to win a lot of games because they can have a different hero every night. If they're starting pitching and just give them enough, they'll be fine. And give David Stearns credit. Everybody rips him for not signing the big starting pitching free agents. He takes chances on guys. Last year, it worked with Severino Minaya. They don't even have Minaya yet, and they're this good. Now they've taken chances on Canning and some of these other pitchers and in Clay Holmes. And so far, it is only 30 games, but it's panned out very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best thing for the Mets is the way they've gotten here is not the way most people expected. Like you said, we thought the starting pitching when we reviewed them in our division preview was going to be their biggest concern, but so far it's been one of their biggest strengths. Not only, for the ERAs, which not a single Mets starter has an ERA above 3.3, which is fantastic, but also the health. And, I'm hoping not to jinx them, knock on wood. But so far, you have had basically the same 5 guys in the rotation through the first about 6 rounding, especially with tonight, I believe was Peterson's 6th start, rounding 6 times through the rotation. That's very good, a very encouraging sign. The team is giving up exactly, interestingly enough, 3 runs a game. Well, I did the math right. 3 runs a game. So the pitching has been phenomenal. They have a plus 50 run differential. Those are the types of statistics. Those are the types of patterns that allow for sustained success throughout the season. And I think, the Mets, they've got the momentum now. They did get some pushback from a scrappy Nats team who's going to give teams fits every now and then. I actually saw somebody posted a graph on X, and it was like one of those circle graphs where it's like the Nationals, it's like randomly beat some of the best teams in the NLs. Fans think they've made it. Lose to some of the worst teams in the NL. Fans think doom. And then it's just this circle, this pattern that they get stuck in. So we're there. We're in the beat some of the best teams in the NL situation right now. But fantastic start for the Mets. And, and that's without even, Juan Soto really performing that well. Can you imagine if Juan Soto gets going, what's this team going to look like? It's going to be a very difficult team to stop. We are going to go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at who is hot around the league and some of the series that we're looking forward to this upcoming weekend. Do not go away. You're listening to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Put the fever on the head. Hey, yo, what's good, Georgia? It's your boy ACS, and if you love sports from the Peach State as much as I do, then Georgia Sports Central is your one-stop destination for down south sports, courtesy of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you a yellow jacket at heart, or do you bleed the red and black of the Bulldogs? Do you keep it true to Atlanta with Trae Young, Capella, and the boys? Do you rise up with the Dirty Birds on Sundays? Are you excited to see what the future holds for Michael Penix Jr., Bijan, and the rest of the Falcon squad? Do you live at 755 Battery Avenue? Do you rep for Albies, Acuna, and the rest of Braves country? If so, then let's get united every Wednesday for some Braves, Hawks, UGA, Georgia Tech, Atlanta Dream, Falcons, and more on Georgia Sports Central, only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are now going to take a look back at the week that was. Some great games over the weekend, but we're going to go with who's hot and who is not around the MLB. So, Ricky, kick us off here. Which teams do you see? Who are your hot teams right now in the MLB?
Well, I'm going to give a little bit of credit when you look around the league right now and you look at the standings. I mean, coming into tonight, there's not many teams on significant winning streaks, which I think speaks to the parity in the league so far, at least through the month of April. I know we've talked about the discrepancy in the National League competitiveness versus the American League competitiveness, where the run differentials are But I'm going to give some love to the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, they have gone out there. They are going to lose tonight's game, but they had gone on a 5-game win streak. They went out to Petco Park. They played very well against the Padres, ended up winning 3 games by a combined score of 9-3. To consider that Padres offense, even though Luis Arias is banged up, that's a pretty significant result. And they went 5-1 on a road trip against Arizona and the Padres, which is very difficult to do. So we talk about how strong the Yankees have been. I won't say they've been excellent, but they have been good enough to win 18 out of 30. The Red Sox are right around there, but the Rays, game or two under 500, but I think they've shown a little bit of spark. Caminero went deep tonight, which is a good sign. They're playing to the ballpark well. They'll hang around games with their pitching. So considering it, West Coast teams, you and I both know this. When you go out west, you want to at least go 3-3, or if it's an 9-game trip, like 5-4, and just not bury yourself. For Tampa to take 5-6 against Arizona and San Diego, including the last 5 before tonight, impressive stuff from Kevin Cash's squad.
Yeah, Tampa's been playing some great baseball. They were last in the division before this win streak, which is, I know, shocker to those who have been following Orioles baseball. But the Rays were in last place very briefly there, but they've caught up and they are very, very near 500 now. So that's a great comeback for them. I'm going to go with a team that you talked about earlier, Ricky, and I mean their comeback is looking very real, and that's the Braves. 8-2 in their last 10, and of course, now they get the benefit of getting a series against Colorado Rockies, who are on a really, really rough pace so far. So, I mean, they've won the first game in that series. They're up 5-1 tonight, so they're on a pretty good pace there. But Atlanta, I think a lot of people were either ready to count them as down and out or maybe hopeful that to put them down and out early on after that 7-game losing streak to start so that they wouldn't have to worry about them this year. I don't think the Braves are going to go away that easily. I also want to shout out the Cincinnati Reds. They have been very hot lately. They've won 5 in a row. They've closed the gap in the National League Central, just 1 game behind the Cubs. This is a team that, we had some doubts about entering the season, but so far they're playing good baseball. Their offense has been tremendous. They've scored the second most runs of any team in the National League, only to the Cubs. And are they playing? I'm assuming they're playing, or did they get? Oh, yeah, they got the rain out
Reds
against
rained
St.
out.
Louis, so they're not going to go tonight. So maybe that'll help. The rain will help cool them off a little bit. But they are charging in that division, and maybe we're going to throw a little bit of a new wrinkle into this section because I think there's a team that you had mentioned you wanted to talk about in the chat earlier. So let's talk about who are the teams that are really struggling out there.
Well, I mean, I hate to pile on this team because I feel like we pile on them so much. And you and I were talking off air, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. This is just historically bad from the Rockies. And you look at that division, I'm not going to do the math right now, but the fact that you got 4 teams as good as the Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and Diamondbacks all over 500. And I fear the Rockies record might make that division a lot worse. Even the White Sox last year weren't this bad. That's the sad reality of this. I didn't think we would see a team as bad as we saw last year, and the Rockies have kind of topped that. I mean, they haven't really been competitive. They haven't really been a team that you can watch. And we talk about selling hope. They've already fired the hitting coach and brought in Clint Hurdle back as an assistant hitting coach. I kind of wonder when Bud Black is going to get canned just for his own sanity. And you look at the Rockies schedule. This is just for May. Braves, Giants, Tigers, Padres, Rangers, D-backs, Phillies, Yankees, Cubs, Mets. Find me wins. I'm not talking series. I think find me wins. I think if you're a Rockies fan and you have 12 wins by the end of May, you would take it. I have a hard time thinking they're going to get to 10. They got swept by the Reds over the weekend at home, and the Reds were not coming in red hot. Braves, I think, were a team that's starting to play better, but Coors Field isn't really a factor anymore for that offense. Teams are coming in and they're raking. I mean, you look at Colorado right now in the run differential department, they're at a minus 72. The rest of the AL West the NL West, is at a plus 80. So that literally takes the division down to a plus 8 overall. That's embarrassing. And I don't know why there's no accountability in Colorado, but maybe that's something baseball really needs to look at. The fact that you should never have a team lose 24 of their first 28 and 14 in their last 15. That's ridiculous.
And I'm doing the quick math now. It looks like, you've got 4 winning teams, including 3 of the top 4 in the National League. But the Rockies' record is so bad that the whole division is only 2 games above 500. That's absolutely incredible. I'm not going to pile on them. I am going to go with a team that started off really well, and I think maybe gave their fans some false hope, including the leader of our network here, Larry B, and that's the Los Angeles Angels. This team started off the season 8-4 and has now dropped to 12-15. That is 4-11 over the last 15 games. Just an absolutely incredible collapse. They went from, I think they were first in the division at their peak to last. It just, it's what we expected. We all had the Angels as last in this division, so none of us expected them to be good. But I think to have that start that they had, and then for the that such a quick collapse, is just it's disappointing. I'm not going to say it was, that they're now matching expectations, whereas for a little bit they were exceeding expectations. We'll see if they can turn it around, but I've got my doubts. I'm not going to pile on the Orioles. I did that on Sunday, so we're good there. And then tonight's loss just didn't help the cause. But moving on now, let's look ahead to this upcoming week and upcoming weekend. We always do the segment where we look ahead and see what series are coming up that piques our curiosity. So, Ricky, what do you see coming up on the schedule that has you interested?
So we're going to do one in each league, and let's start in the American League. Seattle against Texas, I think, is a real intriguing one. You look at the West right now. Seattle currently is at 16-12, a game ahead of the Astros, about a game and a half ahead of Texas. But even though the Angels have been bad, except Mike Trout, who you never know might get his trade market up if he continues to hit the way he's been hitting, is 3.5 back. Seattle's won 7 of their last 10. They did lose Dylan Moore to the injured list, so that was one of those guys that was a big reason why their offense was doing so well. That's a good test for the Mariners, especially that offense going up against a Texas pitching staff that does have some names to it. Rangers have been slipping in the offensive department, but Seattle's taking a little bit of hit with the injuries. I think Logan Gilbert is out right now for the Mariners, so we'll see if they're able to hang on, but they have kind of flown under the radar with the way they've been playing. And in the National League, I'm going to go with, there's a couple actually. I'm going to go with Cubs Brewers. I mean, you look at Milwaukee and the Brewers, like we've mentioned, they were off that awful start in New York. They were 0-4 to begin the year, and with a win tonight would get to 500. So the Brewers have kind of erased that early stink. And you look at Jose Quintana. Jose Quintana's been really good. I mean, he's the first Brewer to win his first 4 since CC in 08. I mean, think about, you and I remember how great Sabathia was in that run. Jose Quintana has had kind of numbers made you think, why didn't nobody sign this guy earlier in the year? So, Brewers fans want to beat the Cubs. Cubs fans love going to Milwaukee. They make that their second home. Brewers right now are 3 behind, and I think it should make for some fun. The Cubs offense has been great, but now you take them out of Wrigley for a weekend, and their schedule we talked about has been brutal, but Cubs Brewers was there. I thought of Arizona Philly, but both teams are kind of inconsistent. That makes it, even though it's an NLCS rematch from 2 years ago, I'm like, is it great right now? It's kind of weird.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. Those are two good games. Honestly, I overlooked that Cubs Brewers game series there. That's going to be a good one. For my American League, I am going to go with Tampa and the Yankees. It's a really good divisional matchup. You've got Tampa, who's gotten on a little bit of a roll lately. Obviously, the Yankees are currently leading the division. So you figure Tampa is one of those teams. They're scrappy. They like to test teams. So I think will be a good head-to-head. And you'll either give the Yankees an opportunity to pull away from one of their division rivals, or an opportunity for the Rays to close that gap early in the season. That's usually a good time to do it. And for the National League, a little bit of a homer pick, but I do think it's going to be an interesting series. I'm going to go with the Nationals and the Reds. The Reds, I talked about, their team. They've gotten on a roll. The Nationals have been playing pretty competitive baseball as of late. In the first pitching matchup Friday night, Mitchell Parker versus Nick Lodolo, 2 pitchers who have started out the season red hot, no pun intended. I think that'll be a really fun matchup to start the series. No Hunter Green for Cincinnati in these 3 games, although the Nationals do make it back around to Mackenzie Gore by Sunday. So that will be good to see Parker and Gore going at it for the Nats against the Reds. Also a series that's going to be very difficult to tell the 2 teams apart with the colors. So there's that part of it too. That makes it fun. Before we take our second break, we're going to jump to the minor leagues, take a look at some headlines. Ricky, what have you found in the minor leagues this week?
So we are going to stick with the lower levels for this week, and there's a couple of top guys really making a big name for themselves. Let's start with the player out with the Padres right now, and that is Leo DeVries. Now, he's the youngest prospect in the Midwest League, in the High A. That's the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. And he homered tonight. He's got the third highest OPS in the league at 945. And he had a game last week when we got off the air. He hit for the cycle. But not only did he hit for the cycle, he went 5 for 5 with 2 homers. So if you consider the Padres, and his nickname is El Mutante, but you can think about AJ Preller, he loves to make these bold moves. Is DeVries part of the future, considering they've given mega contracts to Tatis, to Machado, Bogarts? Is this a guy they dangled to get a top player in July, considering they were pretty quiet otherwise? But DeVries has been fantastic. And the other player in the Philly system is Eduardo Tate. He is their number 4 prospect, and he at low A. It's got 5 home runs. He's the youngest player in pro ball with 5 or more home runs this year. Clearwater is usually a good ballpark to play in, especially if you're a hitter and the wind's blowing out. But good start for Eduardo Tate in his professional career to have 5 home runs in the first couple weeks of the year. I guess from a Yankee note, I'll just throw out there as well. Spencer Jones homered again today for Somerset. He's got 8. I think it's only a matter of time for at least gets to AAA. But considering the biggest concern for Jones was the strikeouts, and he's pretty much raking in AA again, I think it won't be long before Spencer Jones calls Scranton Wilkes-Barre home.
Yeah, for sure. Great stuff there. Always stinks when teams that are already great, now they have really good prospects that are performing well also, when your team isn't performing so great. I unintentionally ended up with 2 division rivals on my list. I've got first for the Blue Jays, their top prospect shortstop, and I'm going to butcher this name, Arjun Nimala, who is their first round pick in 2023, had a 3-game homer streak this past week. He is playing a great baseball for their AA Vancouver Canadians team so far this year. He is batting .289 with an .888 OPS, and less than a 25% strikeout rate, which is exactly what you want to see from a guy who isn't even 20 yet. So some great performance by Nimala. And then going over to the Red Sox, their number 3 prospect and number 11, I believe, in the MLB pipeline rankings, Marcelo Mayer, is off to a really good start with AAA Worcester. He had 24 RBI in a 9-game stretch going back over the past 2 weeks. He has 34 RBI in 24 games so far this season. So with that type of hitting performance, obviously the Red Sox are playing really well right now. So I don't even know if there's necessarily space for him, but it's only a matter of time before they find a use for Marcel Mayer's skill set in Boston. That will do it for the second part of our show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up with our college teams and our Around the Diamond segment. Do not go away. You're listening to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, guys? If you're looking for the best coverage of all Northern California sports, including 49ers, Giants, Warriors, then check out the NorCal Sports Report with yours truly, Andre Fernandez, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We have guests every single week talking 49ers, Giants, Warriors, Sharks, San Jose Earthquakes, and a whole lot more, plus 3C2A. You do not want to miss this show. So tune in Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific Time to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Galise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate, diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold, have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Galise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We need to jump down to the college ranks now, starting it off with baseball here. The season's really coming down to the wire, only a few weeks left. Competition's heating up, along with the weather, of course. Ricky, who do you got this week? Who are we focusing in on?
So this week, at least for a specific team we're watching, we're going to look to the Texas Longhorns, who were out in playing Texas A&M this past week in a 3-game series. A&M desperately needed some wins to get off the tournament bubble, but Texas went in and swept them. And you look at Texas this season, they're beating Prairie View tonight, 9-1 in the 8th. They're about to go to 38-5 on the season. They're 19-2 in the SEC. Rylan Galvin has been big for them. 12 homers, 38 RBIs, hitting about 330. This is a Texas team that has 3 players, and Galvin, Will Gasparino, and Jalen Flores with double-digit home runs on the year. As a team, they're slugging .512. And you look at Texas' pitching, they've got 3 significant starters. Luke Harrison, a 2.81 ERA. Jared Spencer has been 4-1. Ruger Riojas, 8-1. He's made 6 starts in 14 games. But considering this is Texas's first year in the SEC, and we know about how great their baseball program usually is, to be this dominant when you've got Oklahoma and Florida and LSU and Alabama, some of these significant SEC schools, and the SEC is loaded with how many teams they have. I mean, right now they're 1-2 in the D1Baseball.com poll. You got to give credit to where Texas is due. Their Longhorns have had one of those great seasons, and they're going to be a significant favorite to get to Omaha when the tournament starts in a month. So good job by Texas winning that Lone Star rivalry. All 3 games decided by 1 run in that series. So very competitive 3 games between those 2. In terms of games tonight, we usually have some good midweek ones, and we actually have a great one tonight. Oregon against Oregon State. That's going to be a really fun one, 6-7. That game was supposed to start at 8:30. Don't have a score on that. I'll try to get that one a little bit later. Otherwise, not really a significant ones. We had an upset tonight with UNC Wilmington beating NC State, which we'll get into later. But significant games this weekend, of course, Clemson and Florida State, which Mike talked about last week. That is a massive game, 3-5. Auburn against Tennessee out in Knoxville. That's 10-12. Ole Miss against Oklahoma. That's a battle of 2 ranked teams in that one. So again, we're about a couple weeks left in the baseball season, but all eyes in the SEC. But props to Texas and bordering on potentially, they're going to have at least 20 SEC wins in their first year. So good job by them.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal performance by Texas. Anytime you can beat a rival is always good, but when you can sweep them and put yourself in position to maintain the number 1 seed in the country, that just makes those victories all the sweeter. Of course, it's ironic that you bring up the NC State upset loss to UNCW, because I'm here to talk about NC State, who just had a massive sweep over Clemson this past weekend. That had given them a 7-game winning streak, obviously, before tonight. But that sweep, along with the sweep of Cal the weekend before, had them jumping from 25 to 13 in the rankings. So that's a massive jump for NC State baseball. They have actually been playing really good even before those two sweeps, they took 2 of 3 from Louisville, and they took 2 of 3 from Virginia going back to the beginning of April. So really impressive streak there for NC State. They have several players who are having fantastic seasons. Alex Sosa has a 1.032 OPS. Chris McHugh has a 1.029. They have a couple other regulars who are in the 900s. So really excellent performances there, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Their pitching's pretty good, actually. They've got several pitchers who, especially their starters, they have a trio of starters with pretty decent ERAs. So the pitching's doing all right. The hitting's definitely leading away for the Wolfpack, and hopefully they can continue that momentum into their series at Miami this upcoming weekend. And then they've got at UNC and then Stanford to finish off their season. Those are the last 3 series. So 3 significant ACC opponents for them there. Now jumping over to the softball ranks, and they're really getting down to the wire. In fact, I believe this weekend is the last weekend before the conference championships begin. So, Ricky, who do you got?
So for this week, we usually have a midweek series that's great to talk about. We don't have that tonight. There were a couple ranked teams. South Carolina won, Texas Tech won, but not any significant ones, at least today. Not even tomorrow either. So it's going to make for a fun weekend. But in terms of games of players I like this week, shout out to Clemson. We usually talk about them with baseball, but they had a good run in softball this week. Brooke McCubbin, she's a senior. She won pitcher of the week in the ACC. And it really started last week. We talked about Clemson beating Tennessee last Tuesday in that midweek game. She threw the last 4 innings of scoreless relief in that 9-inning game. She only allowed 2 hits in those 4 innings. And then she went out on Saturday against Georgia Tech. She dominated in a 19-0 win. She threw 4 scoreless innings. McCubbin's one of those pitchers that she's got a 2.75 ERA. She's got 13 wins. She's got 2 shutouts. She's also got 3 saves. So she does a really good job coming in either role for Clemson. She's got 109 strikeouts in over 70 innings. Clemson does not play again until the ACC tournaments. They get a nice week and a half off, but they're number 16 in the country. We talk about Florida State. We talk about Virginia Tech. But Clemson is right there. Stanford's having a good year in the ACC as well, in the top 20 right now. Duke's in the top 20, so that should be a fun ACC tournament. But McCubbin getting the job done, and Clemson getting I would say, a signature win out in Knoxville last week. In terms of your final weekend series, Ole Miss is at Mississippi State. Usually a fun egg bowl in college football, but might be a fun college softball series. Oklahoma back at number 1. They played well against Texas. Their reward, they get to go to Gainesville this weekend for a matchup with Florida, so that should be a good one. Tornado Takeover was talking about that before we got on the air here. A&M at Tennessee, Florida State at Virginia Tech, Alabama's at South Carolina, and LSU is at Arkansas, 10 versus 6 there. So a lot of ranked versus ranked to end the season. And then when we come back next Tuesday, we'll be looking at brackets and breaking down conference tournaments. So that should be a lot of fun.
I do love me a good bracket. I always love a good bracket. For me, I'm going to go with one of the smaller schools, and this school has obviously flown under the radar. They don't play massive number of ranked opponents. In fact, looking at their schedule, they've only played about 4 games against ranked opponents, and they've lost all of them. But I'm still going to give a shout out to Grand Canyon. 40-6 overall on a 17-game winning streak. Look, I don't care what your competition is. Winning 17 games in a row is winning 7 games in a row. They have been sitting pretty consistently in like the low 20s in the rankings, 24, 25. Obviously not a team that you're going to put super high in the rankings given their level of competition, and a team that probably once you get towards anything significant postseason, they probably will not be able to, outduel some of the tougher teams, some of the SEC teams, some of these really strong ACC teams out there. But, it's always good to shout out some of the lesser known schools. And Grand Canyon has just been playing fantastic softball. They have Savannah Kirk has a 5.03 batting average. It's like she's playing softball on like rookie mode in a video game. I swear. And then you also have Jada Cooper, who has a 395 batting average and a 1.29 OPS. I mean, some of these numbers are just absolutely silly. A 781 slugging percentage. You look at the numbers, they're incredible. And again, are they going to make a massive postseason run? No, probably not. I mean, if they did, it would be a fun Cinderella story, but it's good to give them credit nonetheless. Before we jump in around the diamond, Ricky kind of hinted at it earlier. Let's do one more quick live score update. Several games have gone final. I'll talk about those really quick. The Mets finally finished off Arizona 8-3, so they do keep their run per game average going there. Boston finished off Toronto 10-2. Kansas City defeated Tampa 3-1, which ended Tampa's winning streak, but nonetheless still great for them. Chicago maintained a shutout against Pittsburgh 9-0. Shota Imanaga with the start and the shutout there. The Yankees held on, surprisingly, I know shockingly, held on to their lead against the Orioles. They finished that one 15-3. The Nationals, for all I was bragging about the runs they scored in the top of the ninth, proceeded to blow it on a wild pitch in the bottom of the ninth, scored the game-winning run for the Phillies. They take that one 7-6. Some games have not quite gone final yet. Milwaukee's leading to the White Sox 7-2 in the bottom of the eighth. Texas just is absolutely destroying the Athletics. They're up 8-0 in the bottom of the sixth, and they have 2 men on with 1 man out. Houston is leading Detroit 3-2 in the top of the seventh. Atlanta is beating Colorado 7-1 in the bottom of the sixth. And a couple of games that have just gotten started. The Guardians finally got going there with Minnesota. That game is 1-0 Cleveland in the top of the fourth. And then we have LA and the Angels and the Mariners underway. It is scoreless in the middle of the second. And we're in the bottom of the second with the Padres and the Giants. The Padres have an early 3-0 lead there. So now let's finish it up with our Around the Diamond segment, where we just talk about whatever's really eating at us, whatever's really bugging us right now. So Ricky, take it away.
Well, there was kind of a seismic shift in the Yankee philosophy this week, and we're so used to Aaron Boone defending players and kind of giving guys longer leashes than expected. That wasn't the case in terms of the closer role. Devin Williams had a rough game on Friday against Toronto, gave up basically 3 straight, a double, a hit batter, and another double. Yankees end up losing the game 3-2. And Aaron Boone, who usually is he didn't rip Devin Williams, but he didn't necessarily give him the benefit of the doubt either. The next day, it came out that Devin Williams is no longer the closer. That doesn't mean he's going to not be the closer the rest of the year. He pitched in a low leverage situation last night I think it was the 8th inning, did pretty well in that one against Baltimore. So maybe stuff is starting to come back, but you have Luke Weaver, who has been tough as nails for the Yankees since last year, was the closer on their way to the World Series, or the berth in the World Series. And the difference between last year and this year, the Yankees didn't know Luke Weaver was there. Clay Holmes was struggling, and they just had nobody to go to. And they kind of had to fake confidence with Clay Holmes to a degree, although he did pitch well in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Now they don't have to do that. What's concerning right now with Devin Williams is he doesn't know what's wrong. You can tell his body language is just shot. Like he doesn't have the answers. And considering he's a 2-pitch guy, he's a fastball and a changeup, and if nothing goes working, I don't think he's gone through anything like this before. It's tough to pitch in New York. He's obviously still, I think, reeling a little bit from how his season ended last year against Pete Alonso in the playoffs. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll find a way to get out of it. And again, he's lost a couple of these games that the Yankees should have won. But for right now, you look at that Yankee bullpen. Loaizaga should be back hopefully around Memorial Day, and that'll be big for them. Hamilton's pitch well. Leiter's pitch well. They've got the pieces. The rotation's still a little bit of a concern, especially with Warren and Carrasco. But for right now, yes, it's sad that Williams is off to a bad start, but doesn't mean he can't turn it around. And at least the Yankees have Luke Weaver, and if they didn't have him, I don't know what their bullpen would look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of surprising performance so far from Devin Williams. But like you said, when you're a two-pitch pitcher, if one or both of your pitchers aren't working, I mean, where do you go? You really don't necessarily have a fallback in your repertoire there. But it seems like the Yankees are managing the situation well, as I would expect an organization like the Yankees to do. And I mean, they still have the division lead. They're still playing well. So, the impact, I think, overall thankfully has been somewhat minimalized by the performance of the rest of the team. I know I said I wasn't going to pile on the Orioles here tonight, but there is one situation that I wanted to rant about a little bit. So last week the Orioles played the Nationals. We called it the Mike Patt Bowl here on the show, and the Nationals actually took 2 of 3 from the Orioles, which was a bit surprising. But in Game 3, though it was 2-1 in the 7th inning. Cade Povich was pitching a phenomenal game for the O's. He went 6. It was with 2 outs in the 7th. He had only given up 1 run. He had only thrown 87 pitches. He gives up a ground ball that ends up being booted by shortstop Gunnar Henderson for an error. Lets the runner on base. All right. No indication that this is a severe decline in his performance, but Brandon Hyde decides, in his infinite wisdom, to pull Povich without letting him get out of the inning. Okay, you could argue that decision, or you could argue against it for it, whatever it may be. Again, only 87 pitches, whatever. Decides to bring in his best reliever, Yennier Cano, the pitcher who's been the best setup man for the Orioles for the past 2 seasons and counting. And Cano, who, by the way, was well rested going into this game. He had 3 days where he hadn't pitched, and he's kind of pitched minimally throughout the season because, well, he's the close game setup man, and not a lot of the Orioles games have been very close. He comes in, and he gets the final out of the inning on 1 pitch. So 1 pitch, 1 out. And you're thinking, okay, well-rested reliever. This is a close game, 2-1. He is your close game setup man. Let him come out there for the 8th. And let him pitch the 8th and see if he can't get through the 8th, too. Well, instead of doing that, he pulls Cano after 1 pitch to go to Gregory Soto, who the day before had given up a game-tying run in relief. An awfully bold move for a manager who is on the hot seat right now, whose team had just lost 3 games in a row, one of which was by the score of 24-2. And instead of letting your main guy carry this very close game through another inning, you bring in your guy who just blew a game. And oh, by the way, if either Soto or Felix Bautista give up a run and this thing goes to extra innings, well, now you can't bring Cano back in. So you've taken your best setup man out of the equation for the rest of this very close game. I don't know. It ended up working out in the end. Soto pitched a clean inning. Felix Bautista pitched a clean inning. The Orioles won the game 2-1. It just felt like an incredibly risky decision, questionable decision for Hyde to not only pull Cade Povich, who was having a fantastic game at 87 pitches because of an error that led a runner on base, and then to turn around and let your best setup man throw 1 pitch to get 1 out and then pull him from the game. Seemed like a high-risk, medium-reward type situation. I don't know. But what do I know, Ricky? I'm not an MLB manager. So, what can I say? I can't say I would have made a better or worse decision. Who knows? That will do it for tonight's show. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everybody who jumped in the chat. Taryn Rodriguez and Ralph Calise. Also, we got Brian Francione later on in the evening, our Boston host, saying good evening, guys. Good evening, sir, to you as well. Taryn did clarify, by the way, Ricky, to be exact, our post-NFL draft show went 3 hours, 40 minutes, and 53 seconds. So if you're a big NFL fan as well, do go and check that out. We did the teams in alphabetical order. So your favorite team, if you know where they fall in the alphabet, approximately scroll to that minute of the show, and you'll probably find them. We will be back next week to talk more baseball. Of course, the season in full swing. College softball is going to be in their postseason conference tournaments, setting up for the Women's World Series. Of course, the men will be getting there as well. MLB, of course, will be in full swing. We've got some really great series coming up this weekend and finishing out the rest of the week. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Jerky. That's on a whole other planet. Go to planetjerky.net to get yours today. Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but promotes and donates to mental health. Go to their website and use code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear today. Seal the Deal Wax Deals, custom wax stamps perfect for your special occasion. Go to Instagram at Seal the Deal Wax Stamps to check them. Of course, follow ID Sports Radio on all social media platforms, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. You can also go to the website, idsportsradio.com, where you'll find our merchandise, our blog, our show pages, our Hall of Fame, and so much more. And if you have not done so already, please follow all of us on X, the main show page at Bulletin _ISR. You can follow Ricky at Rickinator555. You can follow myself at Let'sline _ISR. And of course, Alden, getting us here in spirit tonight at BAZTRL. Like I said, we will be back next week talking a ton more baseball. I believe Alden will get back with us as well. But for those here tonight, from Ricky K, from Mike Patt, thank you all for tuning in. Have a great week, and do be sure to tune in next week to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great one. We'll see you next time.